So you said for a given hour, 45 minutes you work, 15 minutes you take a break.
Yeah.
Lots of entrepreneurs don't think that way because they're like, well, that's 15 minutes that I could be doing something. Do
Right.
you actually find that you're more energized and more productive after that?
Totally. Henry Ford, wasn't it him who sat in his office one day every week in complete darkness to just think?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure it was either him or, yeah, I'm getting it from the audience, I'm getting a yes. But it's because important to think,
Yes.
right? And if we're so busy, I prefer the term blissfully productive, but when we're busy and our mind is constantly going, we need to stop and think.
Right.
So first off, turn off the radio in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Get up, people say, oh, but I can make it my moving university. I can learn while I'm in the car. That's great too, but what about just quiet? Do you know anybody who has ever said, I've had my best ideas in the shower?
Many people actually.
And why is that?
Probably because they're not thinking about anything else.
Because it's quiet and they're doing nothing else. It's a form of meditation. So their mind is actually giving them a chance. So when I do something like the Wii, I don't have to think about how to hula hoop. The dance mat I have to think about because I'm still trying to beat my child in the top score. But just doing things like going for a walk. I don't have to be listening to something positive, or it's just being and thinking and just allowing the thoughts to come. I'm all about meditation too. So.
Okay. And the last one we mentioned was mentally. What would you do for that? I know it all kind of ties in, but is there something specific that you would say for the mental side?
Knowing where you're at, right? So if I'm feeling overwhelmed, there's something going on.
Okay.
Right? And it means I haven't taken the physical or the spiritual or the emotional, right? That's when the mental comes into place. Unless, somebody literally has a chemical imbalance, but typically most people don't. When they're feeling mentally overwhelmed, it's because they've forgotten about the other three. Because they haven't stopped to exercise, they're not feeding their body right. Because that's when the brain is the last thing to slow down.
Okay. So that's the sign of when you are actually be getting to the burnout stage.
Yeah.
So once you get there, okay, let's take care of the first three things: spiritual, emotional, and physical.
Yeah.
And then everything will be start to become okay.
Yeah, because so in your car you don't put gas in it, it doesn't go.
Yeah.
That's the mechanics of the car.
Okay.
We cannot put quote unquote gas in our body. So if we're not exercising, we're not filling our spiritual tank or our food, whatever, it'll still go. We'll still push it. But as soon as we have that mental block, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's when it stops. That's when the brain shuts down.
Okay.
Right? So if we keep those four things, I always focus like it's like this, the tire with the four spokes, and the four sections, and if one's flat, you're going da-dunk, da-dunk, da-dunk. You're not getting very far.
Yeah.
But if you want a nice smooth ride, focus on everything completely.
Okay.
And that's what I love about the like I said, the task management system, is it shows me and it keeps me focused. Because sometimes as an entrepreneur, we don't take time to play, right? Because we think we should be doing this, or we could be doing this, right? So if I know that out of my week, let's say, that I have 110 hours, right? So if I look at X amount of hours that I'm awake, I have 110 hours. So 55 of those hours are meant for work. That's my work time. That's my necessity time.
Yeah.
So around work, around the house, whatever I have to do. Anything more than that, I'm going to start to burn out, right? Then you get to look and you go, well, what do I do with the rest of the time?
And the limit would change per person too, right?
No. The values stay the same, but depending on someone's timing, especially new entrepreneurs, because they're trying to do different, be everything all at the same time. So the 5 other categories are, pay yourself first, right? So what we call financial freedom. Long-term savings for spending. This means what are you saving up in your body to use, right, to be spent. There's education, there's play, and there's give. So each of those, in a 110-hour week would get 5.5 hours. So what are you doing for 5.5 hours to play every week? And most entrepreneurs go, every week? I don't even get that in a month. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
So you have to be creative, right? Because maybe education is taking a class, right? Maybe you want to, brush up on real estate. So someone comes to town, you want to do something, or it's a seminar, or some new mortgage, whatever. Well, maybe you really, really, really like that, and you enjoy going and networking with other people and hanging out and getting a full day of just learning, well, you can combine your education with your play, right? So then when you have a little more, hours, more time for your necessities, right? Or maybe it's investing in your financial future, right? It's investing in your future, so you've taken a little bit of time from your paying yourself first because you feel good when you go to those.
Okay.
So it's just a way of looking at everything as a whole, because our bodies are not individual compartments. It's a holistic unit, you know?
So you mentioned that entrepreneurs, usually when they look at the 5 hours a week of play, they're like, oh my God, I don't even have that in a month. Well, some of them even think, I don't even know what I do for fun.
Right.
What would you suggest they could do to kind of find out what's fun for them? Because obviously it's different for everyone, but do you have pointers for how they can find that?
Yeah, so it's one of those things where you have to kind of know yourself, right? So I ask, and I ask this of my people in my team, and I'll say, if you could do anything today, what would you do? If money was no object, like what would you do? Okay. And typically it's not, I'd love to travel around the world. Typically it's not that answer. It's like,
simple.
It's like, yeah, you know what? I would just love to read a book today. Or I would just love to go and, be with the horses today. Or, I'd love, what I'd really love? I'd love to go to a dog show. Somebody told me that the other day.
Oh,
I was like, I don't even know about that. Actually, I do. I said, I know somebody at church. I'll hook you up, She doesn't have a dog, but she loves agility. I was like, great. So it's just a point of finding out something that makes you feel good.
Okay.
And then training yourself not to feel guilty
Okay.
when you do it.
Okay, and how do you train yourself to do that?
You just do.
Just do.
You just go and do it, and then you beat yourself up about it, and then you have to train yourself not to, and then you go and do it again.
Okay, so the more you do it,
Right.
and the easier
It becomes easier. It's like stretching a muscle, right? If you're not used to having fun, you're not going to have fun because you don't know how, right? If you're not used to doing something, once a month, and all of a sudden you start doing it, you're like, oh, I'll start next month.
Yeah.
No, you just have to start. That's right. And then it's great also if you have an accountability partner or a coach, right? Somebody who is going to hold you accountable and say, hey, Jess, you said you were going to do this week. What'd you do for fun? Jess goes, well, next week I'll double up. Trust me. And it's,
And you just keep dragging that.
Right. And the only person that suffers is you. And then by default, that champagne glass has a crack in it.
Okay.
And then nothing else gets served because it doesn't fill up.
Okay. So you said the key question is, if you weren't limited by money or time, what would you do right now? Okay.
Yeah. And people are simple. We really are a simple creature. We don't have big, grandiose plans or ideas. Like we have dreams. But really when it comes down to it, I do an exercise with people about, so imagine, that you have all the money in the world, all the time in the world, what would you do? Where would you go? Who would you go with? Or what would you do? Who would you be with? So write it down. And then, now you have 5 years to live, right? Your doctor gave you a diagnosis. So now, where would you go? Who would you do it with? What would you do kind of thing. And then, the doctor called back, you're down to 6 months. Oh, where'd you go? What would you do? Who would you be with? Kind of thing. Okay. And then the very last question is, you're going to die tomorrow.
Same questions.
Same questions.
Okay.
And inevitably with everybody, it comes down to the same core value. There's somebody they want to be with and just be with and not do anything really of anything significant.
Right.
It's just, how do I spend the time with that person?
Okay.
And that's always the last thing that people do.
Okay.
Yet it's most important.
So with that exercise, you find out what your own core values are. So everything should be built around that.
Totally. Totally. That's your champagne glass. That's what's going to feed you. For me, it's teaching. Okay. So I went into the teaching career thinking that was going to do it.
Yeah.
That didn't do it. Made me sick, right? Teaching didn't make me sick. The whole stress I put on my life made me sick around it. But I only knew teaching in the classroom. I didn't know that I could be teaching outside of the classroom. I didn't know that existed. Until now, right? So even when I left teaching, I went into, the seminar world, right? And I started working with people who did seminars, right? Peak Potentials training. And I thought, this is what I want to do. This is so cool. And then I got so burned out doing that because I was just, it wasn't my thing.
Okay.
And that's what entrepreneurs focus on is what's your thing? Why are you doing what you're doing? And if the answer is because I can do it better than my boss can, then you're in the wrong business.
Okay, so that's also a key question to ask. Why are you doing what you do?
Totally.
And the answer should be surrounded around your core values,
Yeah.
then, right?
Right. Because that feeds you, right? I was explaining about, I had a conversation on Friday, oh, you're so busy. Well, I'm not. Because everything that I do, I love to do. It feeds me. It does not drain me. I don't go, oh, I have to go to the book club today. Right? Because if I did, I'd call up and go, I'm not coming to book club. Wait, I run book club. I'm still not coming. Right? And that's the thing is I wasn't in tune with my body before, and I pushed it. And it took me out. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I know that now. And I can see it in others, and I can help, but all I can do is teach. Right? I can't be it for them. So for entrepreneurs looking at the opportunity to not burn themselves out, they have to look inside first and say, why am I doing this? What is about this that gives me, why do I get out of bed in the morning? Because if it's for a paycheck, it's the wrong reason to get out of bed. Now I'm not saying don't get out of bed, but entrepreneurship, people tell you the definition is solving the problem for a profit. Right? But if you're going to go into business for yourself, I think that's Robert Kiyosaki's definition, right? When we go into business for ourselves, sometimes I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs because they said, oh, I can do it better than my boss, and then not like it, but then they're stuck in it. They feel, well, I've put so much time and energy, I'll just ride it out. And again,
it's just damaging.
That's right. And it's not serving the individual. It's not that top champagne glass.
Okay. So on top of taking care of yourself physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, would you just suggest taking maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, just sitting there, reflecting, thinking about what you want from life?
Take time to pee.
I guess
it just comes back. But here's the thing. It's about feeding whatever it is you need, okay? So I had a great teacher one time. I was talking to the coach, and I said, but this is really bothering me. And they're like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you? I said, like a 10. They said, great, scheduling time on Wednesday from 3 to 4 to worry about this, and let it go for now. And see, you laugh, right? Because I laughed too. And he says, well, if it's not important enough to schedule in, it's not important enough to worry about, right? Just allow it to figure itself out, or give it the time that it deserves, kind of thing. And that's to me, that's the thing is, what am I trying to do every day, all day, or who am I trying to be? That's might be a better question.
If somebody wanted to get a hold of you to ask you some more questions about how they can take care of themselves before burning out, how can they reach you?
Ooh, askbarbilee.com.
Okay, and just in case people don't know, how do you write your name?
Okay, A-S-K, Barbilee, BARBILEE.com. Okay. And that'll take right to my website.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for being here and answering some questions today. It's really wonderful hearing you speak, and the knowledge that you have is very valuable to us.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.